This semester, I'm adjusting my grading scheme for this class, and to be honest, it doesn't really translate well to how Canvas's gradebook is set up, so I'm going to give an explanation here in hopes of making things a little bit clearer. Before I get started, however, I want to say up front that I reserve the right to change the scheme up a bit if it doesn't seem to be working how I'd like it to. What I mean by that is, if everyone is averaging a C+ by the numbers, but I think you're all doing B level work, I'm going to tweak it so that the numbers reflect that B instead of that C+. If I ever tweak the grading scheme, it will be to benefit you, not to penalize you. Okay, so here's the scheme in a nutshell. There are 4 basic parts to your grade focused around 4 main sets of assignments. The major assignments, which altogether make up 75% of your grade, the reading responses, which make up 10%, the workshops, which make up another 10%, and the video editing exercises, which make up 5%. The last 3 parts of the scheme, the reading responses, workshops, and editing exercises, are pretty typical and straightforward. You'll get a grade for each of those assignments, and then I'll average them together to get your overall score for that set of assignments. It's the major assignments that have a bit of a twist. Each major assignment is broken down into several parts. First, you have the actual media product you're creating, in this case, 2 videos and a website, and then you have a reflection for each part of that assignment. Within each assignment, the final media project is worth 10% and the final reflection is worth 15%. But each assignment and the reflections each also have 2 draft stages. The drafts will be graded on a pass-fail basis. If you do what the assignment page asks you to and you meet the minimum requirements for the draft, you'll pass. If you do not meet the minimum requirements, you will not pass. You will receive an incomplete for that project, for that part of the project. There may be instances where I hold off on grading a draft and I simply ask you to do it again. This typically happens when it seems like you don't quite understand something I'm asking for in an assignment, and I want to give you a chance to make it right before actually grading you on a pass-fail basis, and you'll see why in a minute. Canvas calls this terminology complete-incomplete instead of pass-fail, but in this grading scheme, it's working essentially the same way. In addition to grading you on a pass-fail basis, however, I will also give you feedback for how you should revise the project for the next draft or the final version. Using that feedback in the next version is crucial for meeting the requirements of the assignment, of the next part or the next stage of that assignment. So if you submit something that's not really revised from the previous version, you might not pass the assignment, or I might tell you, no, do it again. So it may seem like if you don't submit a draft or you don't submit a complete draft, you just fail that draft and it won't affect your grade at all, numbers-wise. And that is not correct, because for every assignment that is marked incomplete at the end of the semester, your final grade is reduced by 5%. That may sound kind of harsh, and well, it kind of is. That's your incentive to make sure you actually do submit complete drafts and to try and make sure you don't drop off the face of the earth, which can happen pretty easily in online classes. That being said, I know that students don't just stop turning things in for no reason, so I'm usually as lenient as I can be when it comes to making up missed work. If you find yourself falling behind and realize you need to catch up, contact me and let's figure out some alternate deadlines. But be forewarned, there does come a point of no return. You really can't make up, say, 4 weeks worth of work in the last week of the semester. Throughout the course, you'll see rubrics for certain assignments, and each assignment should clearly indicate if the rubric is actually being used for that assignment to assign points to it, or if it's just to give you an idea of what I'm looking for. The drafts, for example, all have rubrics, but again, they're graded on a pass-fail basis, so I won't technically be using the rubrics to grade those drafts, but I will be using them to guide my feedback. Okay, those are the basics. If you have questions, feel free to email me and ask. Also, if you're ever looking at your grading canvas and it doesn't seem quite right, feel free to email me and double check. I know this grading scheme might sound scary, but I promise I'm thinking it will actually work out well for you in the long run.